All right, so let's talk about the final paper. And basically, I just want you to follow the instructions that are in the syllabus, because the way I wrote those is um, is basically an outline for the paper. Okay. So the first part I had to put in because not everybody was like kind of following APA guidelines, but um, so title page, any references, um, so try to do it in APA style. So here's the thing. In APA style, you can count the title page as page one. You can count the reference pages. If you have an abstract, you can count the abstract. So that's 3 pages right there. So, you know, the way I add up how many pages does it have to be is 4 to 5 content pages and 7 to 8 pages total. Okay. So, if you're counting the title page of the abstract and the references, it's 7 to 8 pages. Content pages beyond that, 4 to 5 pages. So if you really think about it, you're only writing 4 or 5 pages for this, and it's all about so it really shouldn't be that stressful. I think it should be fine. Um, Now, what everybody asks questions about, it says papers should include a minimum of 4 references from our library. Um, and it says 2 from a primary theorist and 2 from secondary sources like journals. Um, Use original books, professional journals from our online library. Do not use the general internet for this. Do not use AI, anything like that. That goes without saying. Um, don't use textbooks. Use real references. Don't use your Corey book. Don't put a quote in here from Corey. Corey's just some guy who wrote a textbook. He doesn't have any theories. So quote your theorist. Uh, that would be the way to go. Or, maybe somebody ran a study and wrote a journal article, hey, if your theory is CBT, how does CBT work with a certain population? And they did a study. You can quote them. So the way this works, when we say 2 from a primary theorist, if you choose, person-centered, try to get 2 quotes from Rogers. If you uh, are using Gestalt, try to get 2 quotes from Pearls. Secondary sources can be any professional journal that maybe they use the theory in a study or something like that. So all right. So that's about the main question most people have is about the references. Um, yeah, and if you use journals or books from our library online, they should be fine. Do not use web pages or anything on the internet other than our library. You can use Google Scholar to look some things up and then, paste them into the library and get them from our library. All right, let's see. So, what's the paper going to look like? Well, you got a title page, abstract, that's about, a paragraph about what the paper is going to share. And you're going to have 3 parts to the paper. And you could even label them part 1, part 2, part 3. And I even tell you how long each section should be. So, part 1. Now, most of Corey's textbooks have this in chapter 2, but every now and then, I mean, there's like 9 editions. Every now and then it's in a different chapter. It might be in chapter 3, depending on what edition you got, if you got a used book. but it's normally in chapter 2. And he writes about the personal characteristics of effective counselors. Now that you're completing this course in counseling theory, what have you learned by studying these theories from a personal perspective? How do you rate your personal characteristics in relation to those needed to be an effective counselor? What positive characteristics do you already possess? What characteristics need improvement? How will you pursue this self-improvement? Now, the mistake that students tend to make is that they just answer this question. They don't actually look it up in the textbook. But Corey gives you a list of characteristics that you need to talk about. You just can't pick your own characteristics. The characteristics are listed in the chapter. All right, and that is just one page. You could write a whole paper just about your own characteristics. But give me examples, like if you need to work on something, you know, uh, or maybe you do something really well. Give me an example of how you do it well. And don't just say, okay, I need to improve on multicultural counseling. How are you going to improve that? Okay, so you have to tell me if you need to work or improve on something, you have to tell me how you're going to improve it. All right. And that's just one page. And there's no references for that. You don't have to look anything up. You're just talking about yourself. That's all. All right, part 2. So this is the part where you need to use those 4 references. So choose one theory to use as your personal theoretical foundation in counseling. And everybody asks, can I use more than one? Well, eventually, everybody uses more than one theory. But CACREP kind of wants you to choose one for this assignment. So what's your favorite theory? Basically, choose the one you want. Choose the one you like best. I know this theory might change. You might change your preference of theory later on. Just because you pick this one theory doesn't mean you're stuck with it. You might find something else later on. Or you might, use multiple theories. And that's fine. So let's see. Once again, you're not teaching the theory. This is not an undergrad paper about your theory. Okay, we all know the theory. We've went over the theory. You've taken a test on it. You've done presentations. We're not writing about the theory. This is not a paper about the theory. So you're not teaching the theory or writing about the theory itself. Describe why you chose this theory personally, how the theory fits you as an individual, how it fits you as a counselor. What are the positive features of this theory and what needs improvement? If something needs improvement, how would you improve the theory specifically? What population would you use this theory with in the field? And this is where you're going to use 4 references and citations. So find a couple good quotes from the theorists that you really like that back up why you like the theory. And then find 2 journal articles that you can cite that maybe they did a study with the theory and they used it with a certain population. If you want to work in addictions, find one that applied the theory to addictions. If you want to work with kids, same thing. If you're having trouble finding um, these references from our library, go to Google Scholar and you'll be able to find them. I've looked every theory up on Google Scholar and there's enough references. And then just write down the reference and type that into our library and it'll pop up. Okay. And that is 2 to 3 pages. Okay. And part 3, what's your personal reaction to the course, the assignment? But most importantly, what do you perceive your future role to be in the field of counseling? And once again, this is not set in stone. Talk about some things you're thinking about. Maybe you're not sure. Maybe you're thinking about a few possibilities. That's okay, you know? And that's a page, and you can even include the summary and conclusion in that page. Um, so that's a pretty basic outline of this last assignment. I think, and probably the only problem you might have is finding references, and that just takes a little effort. I know they're there. Um, all right. Questions about the paper? Any questions about the paper? There's a Dropbox. I think it's already open. All right.